In a time of profound social and cultural change, an entire generation of young Americans stood united in their desire for more powerful cars, fueling the greatest horsepower war in automotive history. Screeching rubber through turns, roaring down back streets and country lanes, were fun-loving drivers in their wild and powerful dream machines. Just about anyone could afford to fly down the road in a boldly styled, attention-grabbing American icon, the muscle car. Hello, I'm Chip Foose, coming to you from the Peterson Automotive Museum in Los Angeles, California. Whether or not you're a Mopar fan, there's no denying that Chrysler would produce some of the most inspiring cars that stand tall at the very pinnacle of the muscle car era. Dodge and Plymouth's mid-size B Body visions of performance and styling were pleasing to the eye and the right foot. Ultimately, they became some of the best-selling cars of the period, a perfect blend of popular appeal and jaw-clenching horsepower.
Chrysler had the image of building squeakers and squeakers and leakers and good engines. Oh, there's nothing better than the Hemi. You know, Hemi's right there with the best, but wish their bodies were as good as their cars. And in spite of their very competitive styling, they limped along in third place. They'd make a percentage gain on Ford one year and they'd lose it the next year. Every once in a while, they'd hit a home run. And that was, of course, a good example of what happened with the Roadrunner.
During development, the car was known as the La Mancha. However, after a $50,000 marketing partnership with Warner Brothers, the car would be rechristened as the Roadrunner. It debuted to popular acclaim in 1968 as part of Chrysler's line-wide refreshing of their B Body platform. Delivered with bench seats and rubber floor mats, the austere Roadrunner was Plymouth's entry-level muscle car, priced at around $3,000.
When the Roadrunner came out, it had the image of being a real low-cost, high-performance car. It was really a stripper, and you could get it for a perfectly ridiculously low price.
Under the hood sat Chrysler's durable 383 cubic inch, 335 horsepower short-stroke V8. While the 383s aren't generally perceived as being as sexy as the Hemi or the 440 engines, they had plenty of oomph. The basic 383 Roadrunner could travel the quarter mile in just over 14 seconds.
The 383 doesn't get the credit that it deserves from Dodge or Plymouth, even though the cubic inches are there and the horsepower was there.
It's the 383 high-performance engine, which they used back in the 68 and 69. They used that in the police cars here in Los Angeles. And it was one mean, incredibly fast engine. You couple that with a 4-speed and limited slip differential, and it moves.
This immaculate one-owner example in Omaha orange, a rare color for a 68 Roadrunner, has been painstakingly restored to its original specifications. It's one of nearly 45,000 Roadrunners sold that first year, placing a respectable third in the muscle car market segment behind the GTO and the Chevelle SS 396. Along with its fellow 68 models, this car represented a new trend in muscle cars, both in packaging and performance.
The Roadrunner helped define what the muscle car era very rapidly was becoming, which was the greatest amount of power and performance for the least amount of money. The Roadrunner did a great job on that.
Changes to the 1969 model were few and mostly cosmetic. The rear taillights and new full-color Roadrunner decals. This rare and pristine example, also in Omaha orange, carries the optional Hemi under the scooped hood. It features a Hearst 4-speed, black vinyl top, and matching Omaha orange painted steel wheels with dog dish style hubcaps. With another year for the marketing campaign to take hold, the car known as the Beeper became one of the best-selling Chryslers of the era, almost doubling the previous year's numbers, with 82,109 sold, second only to the Chevelle and over 10,000 more than the GTO.
They increased their penetration in the muscle car segment by over 20% with that Roadrunner. And a big hunk of that came out of our sales. GTO lost sales to that Roadrunner. One of the best all-time automotive promotions, in my opinion, ever.
Coming up, Dodge stylists get it right.
It really was a wonderful personification of muscle car. Broad-shouldered, big car, uniquely American. You wouldn't find anything like this coming from Europe.
The muscle car era was in full swing by the middle of the 60s. Dodge had high hopes for their flashy-style Charger model, first introduced in '66, featuring retractable headlights and angled roofline that worked well on NASCAR speedways. Unfortunately, sales of this model declined in '67, but the Dodge boys would unleash a restyled Charger the next year. The second-generation Charger would become one of the most popular designs of the muscle car era.
Well, yeah, I mean, they really did a drastic change from the 67 to the 68. And actually, when they did that change is what I think put the Charger on the map. I think people just went crazy over the new style.
The Charger was never, I think, intended to be a beautiful automobile. I think it's a very well-integrated design visually. It's a handsome car, not a pretty car, but it really wonderful personification of muscle car. Broad-shouldered, big car, uniquely American. You wouldn't find anything like this coming from Europe.
Dodge hit it big, producing almost 100,000 Chargers in 1968. And over 17,000 of them were the RT model with heavy-duty suspension and the largest engines in the Chrysler fleet. Most RTs came with a 375 horsepower 440 Magnum, but 475 were delivered with a $600 Hemi option, which would have added about 20% to the base RT sticker price.
The Charger RT stood for road or track. It could be a very low option car, or it could be a Charger RT with bucket seats, consoles, and all of the goody stuff that made you different from the guy driving the Chevelle or the Mustang.
This Dodge Charger has the 440 with the automatic transmission with an 8 3/4 rear end with a sure grip limited slip differential in it. The color of the car is from DuPont's Hot Hues line, Copper Sunset. It came with factory power steering, factory disc brakes, factory air conditioning, and it has the hideaway headlight. The factory built the car with the black vinyl roof. And so it actually accents or highlights the color of the car. The handling of the car is really good for such a large car. It's very responsive, has excellent acceleration.
Dodge's sales success would continue, building some 85,680 Chargers in 1969.
The 68 to the 69, the only thing they changed was they put an I-beam in the grille on the 69 in the middle. Instead of going round lights on the side lights, they went to reflectors on the 69. And of course, the 69 lights, the rear lights, the long lights instead of the round lights. Some people like the round lights on the 68, some people like the long ones.
It's amazing how big the Dodge Charger of those years is. Then it was considered an intermediate. It wasn't even a full-size car. It's an enormous car if you stand next to one. I guess you have to give credit to the TV show, The Dukes of Hazzard, as helping to popularize that car and make it the iconic muscle car that it is today.
The late 60s Dodge Charger RT, was this anti-aero-friendly design. It just looked like a box with sort of a flying buttress C-pillar and this big bluff front and slab sides. It was a brutal-looking car, and it had, depending on what engine under the hood, it had the performance to match the looks.
The performance crowd clamored for Charger RT models in '69, but just 432 were ordered with the optional 426 Hemi engine.
The Charger was right at 3,700 pounds and the best suited for the big block engine because the Hemi engine was so heavy on the front end, it actually is very balanced in a Charger.
The thing just oozes charisma, and with the right engine under the hood, my, there's no mistaking that serious power was coming down the road. It had the looks, it had the sound, it had the performance. Chargers are still in demand today.
Coming up, Dodge's intimidating mid-year monster.
That's the ultimate muscle car in most people's minds. The whole idea was to buy the car, go to the drag strip, and not do a thing to the car, race it, and then go home.
The original Dodge Coronet was Chrysler's first post-war body style. Introduced in 1949 as a full-size car, the Coronet was a Mopar staple before anyone had even conceived of muscle cars. The Coronet would be revamped and downsized and would set a new standard of performance, bringing Chrysler fame at the drag strip thanks to his 426 Hemi engine. By the late 60s, the Coronet was entrenched as Dodge's prestige B Body muscle car and one of its most well-appointed. The Coronet RT was Dodge's gentleman's muscle car. While it didn't have the panache of the Charger or the Spartan appeal of Plymouth's Roadrunner, it had an abundance of style and a striking amount of luxury.
The Coronet RT was Dodge's top-of-the-line B Body. The high-impact colors didn't come out till like the spring of '69. I think I was told there's only 2 high-impact colored '69 Hemi Coronet RTs made, and this is the only orange one.
This very rare Hemi-powered Coronet hardtop, one of only 97 built, breezed through a Ram Charger fresh air intake with functional hood scoops. Riding on color-matched 15-inch wheels, this car features a 3-speed torque flight automatic, interior wood trim, and bucket seats.
The RT is a little more exact, a little more posh, I guess, and you just, put it in drive and away you go. But then you get on the freeway and away you go.
The Coronet was Dodge's dressed-up muscle car, and its Super B was originally intended to be an entry-level stripped-down version. However, in the middle of 1969, Dodge would transform the no-frills car into one of the most menacing muscle cars of the era, the A12 Super B six-pack.
We were working with Chrysler Corporation, and we were involved with their Pro Stock program, and RT cals were on the cars. And so we were part of that team, and Bob Cahill came to me one day and he says, here's the blueprint. I want you to make it. It's a 3-carburetor manifold. And he says, and I said, well, can I change it? He says, don't change anything. You make it just like this print. I made it, and they got the first one. They said, okay, we want to start ordering them, and we're going to put them on a car.
As a small company, Edelbrock could bring their aluminum manifold into production efficiently and before the end of the model year. The 1969.5 A12 Super B features a matte black fiberglass lift-off hood with large air scoop and tie-down pins. High-tech for its day, the six-pack option was rated at 390 horsepower with 3 Holley 2-barrel carbs, feeding Edelbrock's manifold on the big 440 Magnum engine.
The 69.5s, the lift-off hood six-pack cars, that's the ultimate muscle car in most people's minds. The whole idea was to buy the car, go to the drag strip, and not do a thing to the car, race it, and then go home. Because no matter what you bought, you had to do something like take off the hubcaps or something like that. And you didn't even have to do that with the 69.5.
We had never done that before. Never made a manifold or anything that went on a car on an OE production line, and it went over quite well. So I asked Cahill, I said, you know, being I finally got a manifold on an OE car, I'd like to buy one. And so he says, buy what I tell you to buy, and that was that car, equipped the way it is and everything, and I did.
Still ahead, pop culture influences arrive in normally conservative Detroit.
Mopar went all out, but you got to remember it was the psychedelic drug years. That's the only thing I can contribute all these colors to. The colors were truly a wide spectrum.
As the calendar rolled over from the 60s to the 70s, the muscle car craze was just reaching its high water mark. The public would have the period's largest selection of models from all manufacturers, ranging from cars that were bare bones purpose-built for the drag strip to highly optioned comfort packages. New models would be introduced, and others would just be restyled. Dodge's low-price, entry B-Body muscle car continued to be the Super B, with the base model engine being the same 383 that graced Plymouth's Roadrunners. However, the car's styling would be substantially reworked for the 1970 model year.
A 69 and a 70 is a completely different car. They came up with a completely different front end. The 70 is more round, more aerodynamic in my opinion. The grille is completely different. It's got like two round ovals that go to the whole front end. It's got the hood pins, you know, that with the wires, dual headlights. It's got the non-functional scoops, but the hood looks, you know, kind of racy looking.
This all-matching numbers forest green Super B features a column shift automatic transmission, optional 15-inch rally wheels, and redline tires. With over 15,000 sold, the 70 Super B did respectable business, though a fraction of what Plymouth's Roadrunner was pulling down just a year earlier. The Dodge Charger was also carrying the Mopar flag into the 70s. While it didn't receive the styling update of the Super B, the Charger greeted the new decade equipped with the advanced 446 pack, one of 7 different engine options.
446 pack was running 390 horsepower, very conservative. And they were actually, in some ways, a better street performer than the Hemi. They had a better breathing system, better exhaust manifold system, and they were actually sometimes quicker than the Hemi cars on the street.
1970 was the last year of the second-generation Charger, and some consider it to be the best looking. Exterior changes from the previous year included a new wraparound chrome bumper and undivided grille. This RT has branded rear-facing scoops on the doors, and perhaps the most eye-catching change was the addition of fashionable impact colors, which ran riot.
In the late 60s and early 70s, Mopar went all out. But you got to remember, it was the psychedelic drug years. That's the only thing I can contribute all these colors to. You went from sassy grass green to plum crazy purple to panther pink and butterscotch. It was really, really a cool time in history. And if you mix those colors with a white interior and a white top, you had a striking car. It might be one of those cars that your mama wouldn't like, but maybe your girlfriend did.
This car from the Wellborn Muscle Car Museum, an unmistakable panther pink, is believed to be one of only 2 Charger RTs produced in this color. It's equipped with Magnum 500 wheels, Rally cluster design dash, and rare houndstooth bucket seats. The car is eye-catching while at rest, but on the road, there's no mistaking the power under its pink exterior. Only half as many Chargers were sold in 1970 as in 1969, which painted a troubling picture for Chrysler. And while the introduction of the new E-bodies certainly cut into sales of other Mopar products, the real answer to Charger's decline may lie elsewhere.
I think one of the problems with Chrysler is they were changing models so often. They're bombarding you with Dodge and Plymouth products, trying to gain that market edge that it seemed that General Motors and Ford had. They had to try to convince the average American to buy a Chrysler product instead of a Ford or Chevrolet. And sometimes it could turn off a potential buyer. You're not certain which model to buy.
Chargers remain some of the most iconic and sought-after muscle cars of the era, and they've kept a firm grip on the affections of collectors and enthusiasts.
The Charger was just probably the ideal Mopar. It was a big car to begin with, and to get all that much horsepower in it, and the later Chargers just were, design-wise, they just carried through from one end to the other. It was just a beautiful car. And of course, they're, the cars people seek these days. They're the ones that people like to find.
The runaway success of Chrysler's late 60s B Bodies was a rounding counterpunch to the folks at Ford and General Motors. These bad boys from Plymouth and Dodge would carry the muscle car era to its peak at the end of the decade. Mopar's Chargers, Roadrunners, Cornettes, and Super Bs sold briskly and would become some of the most beloved cars of the era. And today, they're as popular as ever. From the Peterson Automotive Museum in Los Angeles, California, I'm Chip Foose, and we'll see you next time on America. In a time of profound social and cultural change, an entire generation of young Americans stood united in their desire for more powerful cars, fueling the greatest horsepower war in automotive history. Screeching rubber through turns, roaring down back streets and country lanes, were fun-loving drivers in their wild and powerful dream machines.